This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring Heel Jack Coffee. You need great. Jack delivers. And by me, Ken Beagle, and my new show, The Mind Summit. Do you have goals? Do you have dreams? If the answer is yes to one or both of these questions, the Kent Beagle Mind Summit is for you. Find it right here on the Audio Wool Network.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to support us, please go to patreon.com/Frightday.
Ooh, I just got Creepshow Season 1 in the mail. Thanks, Shudder.
Oh my God. So Byron,
Yeah.
that Jeffrey character, we finally opened that box.
Yeah, what's in it?
A lot.
You got Necco wafers.
Literally last run of Necco wafers. He found them for you. This is the Best Buy year. So like it was literally the last batch that they made.
I'm very excited.
But then a silver bullet, like a 1 ounce pure silver bullet.
Oh.
And Kelly got a silver $5 piece from Canada that's got a Sasquatch on it.
That's
and also
pretty
we got a
cool.
handmade pen out of a 50 caliber casing.
And you told him about the silver bullet already, right?
Yes, I did. The 1 ounce.
What
silver
one
bullet.
is this? Who is this one?
This is Jeffrey, so we need to do something for him, like send him some blood. Sam got like $20 worth of silver. I got a $40 coin.
And I got a $150 value of Necco wafer, would be my guess.
Exactly. Actually, did you know that the Necco wafers aren't actual coinage? You're aware of that?
So he sent that, and he also sent a book about the local hauntings
Of
in
Lincoln,
Lincoln,
Nebraska.
Nebraska.
This dude rules. I like this
Yeah.
guy. It is Frightday. I'm your host, Byron.
Yup.
I hate you so much.
I'm sorry.
And from the top of the charts to what feels like and could be the pits of hell, being a one-hit wonder could leave even the most confident musician miserable. Insecurity attached to the inability to unleash a worthy earworm can lead to desperation, incantations, and sacrifice. Maybe it would just be best to leave the past where it's at and walk away. But of course, that wouldn't make for a very exciting film. Tonight, we're talking levitation, exorcism, ectoplasm, and moving on as we review Mike Ahern and Enda Loughman's Extraordinary, and it is June. And if you've been listening to us for a while now, you know what that means. Moon June has resumed, and this week it's all about lunar HQs. Bases on the moon in this week's edition of
Okay,
Kelly's
so hold on,
Cryptids
just to
and-
interrupt you a little bit.
Yes?
Yeah, so because I talked about bases on the moon, I was thinking we could do like more moon origins and then talk a little bit about.
Oh, wow.
Depending on. Yeah, sorry.
Great time to do this.
I texted you that an hour and a half ago.
In this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, I'm joined tonight by Kelly.
Hello.
And Sam can make it.
I'm a can do.
There he is.
He escaped because he just had to take a break from watching Outlander with me.
Oh, I
And
thought he
so
got fired from the marina.
He did a terrible job, and he definitely has not elevated to skipper, but he hasn't gotten fired yet.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad he took some time off to join us.
Took some time off and kept the boat shoes.
He did keep the boat shoes. They're very cute.
Oh, right. Summer fashion tips from Sam and Kelly.
Summer fashion tips from 1999.
You guys have been
Okay.
stuck inside for a while.
I mean, like, I actually have this whole setup on the porch
It
now.
doesn't even seem like inside anymore. It's just the world.
I mean, it is pretty normal at this point. But have you experienced any abnormal or maybe potentially paranormal activity at your home? Apparently, reports of paranormal activity are on the rise during coronavirus's stay-at-home orders.
Of course they are. Of course they are, because people
are
are
bored
around.
and high.
Well, no, people are. Oh, that's not true.
right.
People are around to notice ghosts more.
Exactly, or just the normal noises their houses make every day. But some people get spooked and have been calling paranormal investigation teams more frequently than those teams have been reached out to in the past.
So it's a good time for Bilbo Baggins.
I will need to see their their social distancing plan before I invite them to our home.
So apparently it's, quote, just the little things. Doors would close, doors would open, just like little noises, which is interesting because it was actually small hauntings that inspired the film that we're talking about later tonight, Extraordinary. The two writers were interested in the more subtle aspects of haunting. It's very interesting, but not surprising, this whole paranormal activity during quarantine thing. But nonetheless, I guess it's good for business.
Well, yeah, depending on what your business is.
If your business is lying to people about ghostly experiences, then
Maybe you can end up with a whole creepy locked room in your house filled with not haunted artifacts that you can later sell on
Okay,
eBay.
don't make fun of people.
well, I mean,
He started a whole museum out of
I was
it.
talking about the Warrens.
yeah.
I know, but I'm saying the Baggins started a whole museum out of his.
Well,
Are we going to go to the prison next month, guys?
we don't.
The sentencing isn't until
I mean,
August,
the
so I don't.
old one, Sam.
Are we gonna?
The
No,
old
Kelly.
one.
We can't spoil what next month is already.
Okay, just to be clear about this, Sam, this was 100% Byron's idea. Byron, I'm going to make you tell him what July is.
I mean, just normally the time I have to pack gauze underneath my man boobs to absorb all the sweat because it's so
Yeah,
hot.
so that's very funny. This is Moon June, and next month is going to be July. Or
Literally, that was I had
So
no
we
part
just
of
we
that.
we talk about the chosen ghosts.
I mean,
July.
that was my one concern. My second pitch is boolai, like a ghost noise. They say
Yeah,
boo.
like the boo. Yeah, no, I do.
No,
I get
not
that.
boob. I know we're not sitting in the same room, and you can't quite hear me very clearly. But
A grand time to have to be alive.
let's try to push through that, I guess. What have you guys been up to? Anything fun going on?
Yes, lots of fun things.
What?
I bought some new patio furniture. And so I now have this really nice setup on the front porch, and I can not be a mole person while I work all day. So that's fun.
Cool.
There's also a giant outdoor sunbrella covered beanbag that
Kelly.
is spectacular.
Kelly's. This is 3 weeks of me being like,
I'm just
absolutely no
saying,
with what you're saying.
People appreciate hearing.
Nobody does. Nobody wants
What?
to hear about lawn furniture.
No, they do.
My problem is this is someone's first time listening to this show.
And welcome to you.
Oh,
I am drinking a lovely rosé
No, oh,
of
God.
Pinot Noir.
It's time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror straight ahead.
New segment. Sam.
Oh yeah, but Sam doesn't know about the new segment.
Is this where we pick a staff member whose salary we slash?
no, that seems like an aggressive business.
Furloughs. We're
Wow.
furloughing staff because our current business model doesn't support us not taking all the money.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about a horror comedy, I thought I'd shine a light on a horror comedy that I don't think enough people have seen.
Because we talked about Wayne Nance already, dude.
He's not funny. That guy haunts my dreams. A 2012 film also from the other side of the pond, Sightseers.
Show me your world, Chris. Good girl.
If you don't pick up this excrement immediately, then I'm going to inform the National Trust.
Report that to the National Trust, mate.
Never thought about murdering innocent people before.
He's not a person, Tina, he's a Daily Mail reader.
I don't want this to ruin our holiday.
The police are pursuing a ginger-faced man and an angry woman.
You're a liability. You're just like your mother.
You didn't let him see you do number twos, did you, Tina?
Oh, that's such an underrated. Maybe it's not underrated. I feel like people don't talk about it enough, though.
I don't think they do. It's directed by a guy named Ben Wheatley, who you may know as the director of a couple really fun genre films. One of my favorite of all time would be Kill List. Also did High Rise and Free Fire, which are a little bit not
Is he the guy that was in Stand By Me?
Ben Wheatley? You're talking about the English filmmaker and screenwriter?
Clearly,
No.
I'm not.
He's
Never
like
mind.
younger than us.
Scratch that.
Great guy.
I mean, he's younger than you. No, he's old.
An innocent tour of Britain's countryside turns into a disturbing odyssey when Chris whisks his girlfriend away on a cross-country road trip. Turns out Chris isn't so much the guy.
Isn't the guy that she thought he was.
They have fun, though. They rediscover each other.
It was produced by Edgar Wright, of course, mind behind Shaun of the Dead. I just love this film, and I think that it pairs very well with the film we watched tonight.
Yeah, and I just have to say also, his other film, Kill List, does not pair well with this film we watched tonight, but is honestly one of the I think one of the best films of this millennium so far.
Ben Wheatley is an incredible director, so if you're not familiar with the films of Ben Wheatley, I think you should dive deep. This is a great one. Kill List, I think I put it in my top 25 of all time when we did that breakdown on Behind the Screams, but yeah, incredible stuff. Sightseers, check it out. Sam, I mean, I know that we just kind of sprung this on you.
Well, then he can do it in a minute. Let me go first.
Okay.
Sprung it like a bear trap.
What do you got, Kelly?
Session 9.
And I gotta get construction crews in here by Columbus Day, so you got a guesstimate how long?
I've got 4 really good guys. 1 week, we're gone.
That's fast.
I need the job.
So the loonies are outside in the real world, and here we are with the keys to the loony bin, boys.
You might actually want to be grateful. You're about to make some decent money.
What's the catch?
Patricia Willard scandal, 1984.
I want you to try to remember what happened 24 years ago.
Use your imagination.
These shrinks figured that with these new techniques they designed, they could release hidden memories.
You can hear me.
You okay?
I want to go home. I wouldn't tell anybody about this. If they find out about Hank, they're gonna find out about the others. Quit of the others.
All right.
Yeah, so I watched Session 9, one of those like classic awesome horror experiences.
I just need to interrupt for 1 second. Will somebody tell me what this game is so I can think about it while Kelly's talking?
It's called Staff Picks. And
it's like the old
Staff Picks.
movie rental stores. Like you have all of Staff Picks.
The staff has not prepared anything for me.
If something comes to mind, let it rip. Dude.
Okay.
No pressure.
So this is a movie that I watched up late one night, I think either in college or shortly after college, and I'd never heard of it, and it was one of those awesome, like, oh my God!
Directed by Brad Anderson.
He also did The Machinist, another classic.
Good. That has one of the more grisly scenes in a factory that I've ever seen.
Every scene that shows Christian Bale without a shirt on?
I was more thinking of the time that he neglected to push a stop button on a machine and it ripped a man's arm to pieces.
That was problematic as well.
That's like The Mangler, that film.
Yeah, that was rough. Yeah. But tell me about Session 9. It's been a long time. 2001.
Yeah, so I watched it a couple years after. Well, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years after that. Like I said, it was just one of those cool late night, can't go to sleep, surfing the channels, which I guess doesn't really happen anymore because everything we watch is
streaming.
Yeah, so I guess it's one of those lost moments, right? I stumble upon this movie and it had just started. I was like, oh, this seems cool. This group of construction fellers are renovating an old insane asylum. So awesome premise to begin with. They find some really creepy material, and one particular guy starts going down the rabbit hole as a result of the material that they have found. And I could talk a lot more about it in terms of the plot line, but it's one of those that you're just much better off watching because it's a super fun one. Sam, I assume you've seen it, haven't you?
I have, a long time ago.
It used to be a sleeper. I think more people talk about it now than used to just because horror's more of a norm thing now. Great, fun, spooky movie. And honestly, I don't know that I've seen many things similar to it. It's kind of a unique one.
Yeah, it was also, as far as mental institution, abandoned asylum horror goes, it was before the curve of more popular ones like
Grave Encounters, etc.
And I, if I recall right, it has a pretty disturbing scene with one of those brain spikes, the ones that they used to give people lobotomies. Is that right?
That's an ice pick lobotomy.
Yep.
All right. And if you want more insane asylum
lobotomies
talk, in episode 72 we did the Waverly Hills Sanitarium.
Which is a great one.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do another sanitarium for July.
Let's focus on
my staff pick is Kelly has been making me watch various things that I don't really want to watch, but it's also easier than arguing with her.
Yeah.
And then I got to pick, so I picked Aliens, which is like comfort food to me, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. So good. Sigourney Weaver, Phil Reiser, What is it? Is it Reiser?
No,
Reiser?
it is Reiser, but it's not Phil. It's
Paul Reiser.
Different
Mad
Reiser.
about Paul. and unfortunately,
the late Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton.
Oh.
He's so good. He plays such a tool in this, though. He's like so irritating.
The biggest tool.
Very good. So much more science fiction action film than Alien was the original. I mean, and I think it requires less thought and attention to pay to fully enjoy it. You don't feel bad, I guess, like zoning out. You're not especially engaged in the peril that's happening on screen unless it's with Newt, the little girl, or Ripley,
who is cute but also a horrible actress.
Yeah, Kyle Reese as well. It's just fun. It's splattering aliens and flamethrowers and guns and futuristic armored personnel carriers. And how do you win? You just kill them all. Just kill everything. Blow
Game
it all
over,
up.
man. Game over.
Game over, man.
Yeah, the funny thing is I knew that quote from Family Guy before I knew it from Aliens. And I had seen Aliens when I was younger.
You're trying to get the show canceled, huh?
It's actually a chapter title in the novel The Beach, which I actually read on your recommendation at the very beginning of a relationship. And that was the only part of that book where I was like, huh.
It's a great book.
The rest of it was garbage.
You're garbage.
And that's great. I'm enjoying this new staff pick segment.
Yeah, I'm going to find something super esoteric for next week. That's my goal.
We need to watch McPherson tapes again also.
I saw that reissue on Blu-ray. Looks beautiful. Kelly, you just did an episode on that, right?
They're
on the
all pretty
McPherson
much
tapes?
that or
I
some
did.
variation thereon.
Now is a great opportunity to pick up that Blu-ray.
Oh, my God. You know what? We watched that before we started Frightday as a palate cleanser after we watched Martyrs.
Was that
Yep.
the same night? That would make sense.
Same night.
It wasn't much of a palate cleanser because the quality was horrifying as well. Why am I saying that about a film I just recommended? Because it's a piece of cinematic history.
It's good history.
And justifying the things I say, just like I did on Behind the Screams this week. We finally did it. We've wrapped up Blum Madness. A winner has been crowned, and if you want to check it out, patreon.com/Frightday. We have determined the best Blumhouse film, and it wasn't hard, and it was hard at the same time.
The first couple rounds were rough.
I like our
And then it got
Blum
easy.
Madness, our play on March Madness. We just finished it up in June.
I mentioned that in the episode. We did take our time, and I do apologize. But
Well, there was a delay. There couldn't be any crowds because of the Rona.
Things got real weird. And on these weird nights, I like to look out my window, breathe in that crisp early summer, late spring air, and just stare up at the moon. And I think after this month, I'm going to look at the moon differently.
Did you ever feel like maybe the moon is staring back at you?
That's quite possible in this week's
It
edition
is.
of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracy.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Because there are all sorts of new mental health hotlines that you could call.
That's quite the twist.
Today on Captain Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies episode, I would like to discuss something. Every once in a while we get a naysaying review or a naysaying email, and I have to say, historically they've been pretty stupid.
Well, I just got bored of creating spam accounts.
Okay, well, this week we got one that was very well written. Also, I thought had some very good points. As many of you know, I did a Plandemic episode a couple weeks ago. The sad part about it is I thought I was being pretty restrained, but I was obviously pretty fired up and wasn't entirely restrained.
Hey, Kelly.
Yeah?
I'm gonna butt in here and say that I think that it may have been my opening that also stirred this up a bit. I was
Really?
I was going pretty hard at the online communities that were caught sharing this information. Remember the Facebook groups that I called out? So I will take my blame there.
So this person, I think, rightfully felt rather attacked. Certainly we understand we have people who listen that are of all political leanings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am rather open about my leanings, more open than Byron would prefer, I think. But
yeah, everybody.
Yeah. But one thing that he said that I really want to clear up, I do not for a moment think that everyone on the right is an ignorant, racist bigot. And I do realize there are a lot of people on the right that pay attention to the news and science. So I'm very sorry that I gave off that impression that I made any of our listeners feel that way. if you listen to Alex Jones, you do suck.
Okay, so we're back to that, and reasonable.
But
Well, Byron listens to a lot of Alex Jones.
But no, in all sincerity, I thought that he made some really, really good points and basically said, keep in mind that not all of us are stupid. And he pointed out that he hadn't even heard of the video until we brought it up. I think it is important to never put categories of people in a box. And I apologize for giving that impression. I do not feel that way. I think that all of us, regardless of our political beliefs, are capable of being intelligent and thoughtful and engaging in positive dialogue. And I hope to do better at that in the future.
Yeah, I echo everything Kelly says, and I very much appreciate the time that this listener took to write out this review. Very easily could have just been like someone else who just called me a femtard and then just moved on.
I had a lot going on, Byron. That is literally all I had in me.
Not chill, Sam.
Yeah, honestly, like those kind of people, if we're annoying those people, then I feel like our job is half done, because there are still probably a lot more of those people we could annoy.
And just to be clear, those people does not mean all people on the right.
Oh, no.
Just gonna clarify
Absolutely
that.
not.
Yeah. So, Jojo, I really appreciate your email, your review, rather.
I was talking about the femtard people.
I know you were. I was just, I'm trying to be cautious. Working with my psychiatrist weekly on attacking ideas and not people.
Have you ever, you know what that is? It's like a piñata. It's like you have a blindfold on and the idea is just bouncing around and you can never quite connect. But people, especially if you sneak up behind them, oh boy.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's not what I've been working on, Sam. That's the opposite of what I've been working on. So let's talk about origins of the moon. Moon June. We've covered some interesting topics in the past, and there are some parts of this we're going to bounce into a little bit of territory that dovetails with some things we've mentioned, but at its most basic level, the moon itself is a giant conundrum.
I thought it was cheese.
Oh, case closed.
Honestly, I think it's an excellent argument in favor of simulation theory more than anything else, and I'm actually quite surprised that in the research I do during Moon June that simulation theory doesn't come up more, because there are some wild and crazy theories about how the moon got there, but to me the most logical one is it, like everything else, is just a damn simulation, and that's why it defies all logic and all rational statistics.
Learn more about that in episode 133 and 134.
But we're going to talk through today some of the scientific theories, why the science community is still not united on where the hell the moon came from, and some of the more interesting theories about the origins of our happy little light in the sky. Also, side note, in this research I discovered that last year China announced that they were going to put an artificial moon in space.
A city in China has a bright idea, as in 8 times brighter than the moon. The plan reportedly is to launch an artificial moon in 2020. Obviously,
some people think that the one that's already there is artificial, so in that case, it would be a second artificial moon in space, but to serve as a lighting source?
Like Mr. Burns, but opposite?
What did Mr. Burns do?
He tried to block out the sun.
Block out the sun, so everyone would have to buy power.
Oh, look at you. Smart Mr. Burns. No, and it was supposed to happen by...
stupid.
So it was supposed to happen by 2020, and I couldn't find anything super current on it, but... Literally.
What if they just parked it in front of the one that we know about already and it's been there since?
Here's just the quick excerpt intro from a Time article on it. The night skies might soon have company. Chinese scientists are planning to launch an artificial moon into orbit by 2020 to illuminate city streets after dark.
What?
Yep.
Are we... Yep. This isn't pitch black. We don't need a bunch of freaking suns in the sky.
Well, also, it's China. They're like, okay... This is for surveillance and weapon. Why don't we just tell everyone it's for light?
Sam,
it's like they're not even trying anymore.
It's so disappointing because Byron hasn't watched all of Space Force, so we can't even talk to him about the hilarity of that. But we'll talk to you about it soon, Byron. Get that watched, okay?
Okay, I'll start ripping through it. I've seen episode 1. Great show on Netflix.
You know what's really interesting, though? A lot of people hate it.
Really? People aren't enjoying it, huh?
There's some real shitty reviews of it. And I'm like, I think it's great, personally.
Hey, I think it's
also,
pretty fun.
The actress from Ma plays the daughter, and I love her. She, for some reason, I just really like her. I think she's great.
Huh.
Yeah.
And there's also that guy from that Ryan Gosling movie where he plays like the girl's dad, and then Ryan Gosling, you know what I mean?
I can't.
Anyway.
You're referencing Crazy Stupid Love?
Yes, it was so stupid.
It was a great movie.
The dad in that one.
Yeah. It was a great movie.
Real life
dad. It was a really good movie.
Sure.
Okay, Moon origins. Tons of theories floating out there. None of them really quite connect. So let's talk through a few. Number one theory, the giant impact theory. And this is one I think most of us have heard. I had heard of this, at least when I was younger. I remember learning about this. In fact, I think I may have learned about this as the definitive truth surrounding the origin of the moon.
Well, yeah, some people list it as the giant impact hypothesis, too. So I don't know if there's a difference between a theory and a hypothesis. But
oh, God, there is. There is. A hypothesis is interesting because that's something that you plan to test. So I don't know how you would test that.
And a hypothesis is an assumption made before any research. A theory is a principle set to explain phenomena already supported by data.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that with what we're dealing with here, you could probably use those pretty interchangeably and liberally.
Anyhow, incidentally, Sam, you should know that the other day Creature told me that her hypothesis was something when she was talking about a theory she had about something or another.
Was the hypothesis that you should give her the Scooby-Doo fruit snacks?
No, that was
I
not.
get that one a lot, too.
Okay, giant impact hypothesis / theory, whichever way you would like to consider it. The idea here is that there was a large object that smashed into Earth early in our history, formed
We're talking
a moon.
At what point after the Lord built Earth?
Oh, God. We've already offended enough people.
4 or 5, probably, at least.
Right.
Later, much later in its creation.
It's true. It's very true. I don't disagree with you.
Okay. So this giant impactor hits the planet.
Basically bounces off and becomes the moon. Gets caught in orbit. Okay.
Wait, what?
So,
you're saying that the actual impactor is the moon?
Or, well, okay.
I think another theory is that it hit Earth, caused a bunch of debris
to shoot off
that orbited around it, almost like the ring of Saturn, until it compacted to become what is now the moon.
Actually, honestly, that's discussing how the Earth could have formed. Theia is what a lot of people refer to this impactor as. And they're saying that when it collided, there were a bunch of ejected particles, both from Theia and from the Earth itself, and created a moon that was, for whatever reason, it is the largest moon in the solar system with relation to the planet that it orbits.
So I guess it's a combination of the two things, the impactor and pieces of Earth.
And the ejecta.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So essentially it was Theia's core that was left from the impact, and all of the Earth material kind of circled around it and all jumbled up together and created a nice little moon.
Interesting.
Except it wasn't a little moon, it was a big moon.
Big moon.
A few problems with this. So number one, the isotopic signature of Earth and moon are virtually identical. If the moon had formed in this manner, obviously Theia would have had a very different composition from Earth, and so it wouldn't make sense that the moon would have basically an identical composition in terms of isotopic structure.
So just removing all the fancy words you said, they're made of the same stuff.
Yes. Isotopically speaking, there are some pretty big differences in terms of the metals that are found, but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
The next theory commonly discussed is that it was captured by Earth. So there was some type of large object that was floating around in space, got somehow into our gravitational pull, Earth captured it, and it fell into an orbit. Now, few issues with this. Again, composition, too similar, the isotope issue. But we also have just the odds against some object in the solar system coming into our gravitational pull and falling into such a oddly perfect orbit is astronomically small, unless, again, you buy into simulation theory. And in fact, good old Isaac Asimov has a fabulous quote about it. It's too big to have been captured by the Earth. The chances of such a capture having been effected and the moon then taking up nearly circular orbit around the Earth are too small to make such an eventuality credible. So,
it really is amazing.
I mean, it's just like the odds of life occurring on Earth. It's so teeny, teeny, tiny. I mean, this thing just keeps bringing me back to simulation theory. But that's okay. Fission. It's another really cool theory. So when the Earth was forming and was still all molten-y and spinning, pieces flew off and created the moon. The idea is most of these pieces supposedly came from the Pacific Ocean.
Kind of like whenever I use Jamie's KitchenAid and I just I cannot control the speed correctly, and stuff just flies out.
And if you don't have the bowl latched down, it starts to wobble, and you get like a sympathetic vibrate, like standing weight. Yeah, it's bad news.
It really is.
You can blame it on avocado.
Oh, God.
Artichoke is the name of the cat.
Poor artichoke.
Blame it on somebody.
The issue with this theory, the ocean floor crust is way too young. The moon formed much earlier, and also Earth, most scientists believe at least, that Earth could not have been spinning that fast enough to expel that quantity of rock that eventually became the moon. Although it does certainly fit in line with the composition issue, but it really fails on those other.
Well, but the problem is, I mean, the Earth is flat, almost like a pizza crust spinning, and as it's spun, the corners have worn down in the just from the friction with space there. Yeah, and you don't want the dough to rip, aka Earth. Also, how you flat earthers doing with that SpaceX footage, huh? Does that feel good?
I love that that's like the one crazy thing I refuse to believe in. I mean, aside
funny,
from like Pizzagate and like actually harmful things, that's the one in theory unharmful conspiracy theory that I'm like, no, fuck it. There's absolutely no way.
But do you ever feel like maybe you're a gateway nut? People who have never had these thoughts are like, oh, I'll just look and check out the moon. Maybe that's weird.
Honestly,
and then they're like, oh,
Sam?
geez, JFK was assassinated by the mafia. And then, oh, God, race war.
What the hell's going on? Oh, there we go. Sorry, my mic had totally rotated around. There's going to be some really shitty sound quality from like the last 20 minutes, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry, B. I just fixed it, though.
Wait, what was going on? You were talking into the backside of your microphone?
I was.
Huh.
But it's okay. She just spun it 360 degrees and we're good to go.
I fixed it now. I spun it 180 degrees, you dick. Honestly, Sam, you bring up a good point, and this is why I think sometimes I get over the top in my politics discussions, because I want to make sure that people do not feel like I am guiding them in the direction of Pizzagate. It's very important to me.
No, they need to follow those breadcrumbs for themselves.
Anyhow, next theory, accretion or co-accretion, as it is sometimes called. This is the idea that the primordial accretion disk, isn't that just such a cool phrase? God, I love astronomy. The primordial accretion disk.
You've salted your presentation with science words.
Of the solar system. When it happened, basically the moon and the Earth were created at the same time and therefore have very similar compositions. Parts of this make a lot of sense. Again, similar makeup in terms of being able to at least be within our general vicinity. That would make sense. However, both the angular momentum of the Earth-Moon system and the fact that the moon itself doesn't revolve, they create issues with that theory. If they were created at the same time, there's really no reason that the moon wouldn't revolve, as I understand it. Again, very basic, not complete understanding of astronomy, but as I understand it, that would be very strange. And just the angular momentum of our relationship and our orbital system with the moon, very, very strange, very rare, and it would be difficult to create, according to scientists, in that scenario. So what does that leave us with? If it wasn't one of those things, then we start getting into some really weird stuff, Byron and Sam, because the moon, according to some rock samples, might be older than the Earth. Let that sink in.
Are those rock samples possibly by the great David Lee Roth?
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so the Earth, there are lots of estimates that, 4.6 billion years is about the oldest the Earth is rationally estimated to be. I know that's older than 2000, and that might bother some of you, and I apologize about that. But moon rocks have been found that are 5.3 billion years old. Now, you might say, well, those could just be pieces of asteroids or meteors that have crashed onto the moon that are from older pieces of planetary structures. However, the chemical composition of these rocks would not be as uniform as it is if they were all pieces from random different asteroids and meteors. And B, it's not just the rocks, but it's also the dust under them. The dust under them, in some cases, has been estimated to be as old as 6 billion years old. And that's an issue. If we have dust on the moon, 6 billion years old, Earth, 4.6 billion years old.
Why don't they just pull apart some of the dust balls and age the dog hair that's caught up in them? Just lift under a moon couch and just sweep that out. Take it to the science.
Sam, often you have really ridiculous ideas. I feel like you're kind of hitting a new ridiculous peak this evening.
That is interesting. Is this dust something like, are we flying through space, like not just Earth, but our galaxy? Is that?
Yeah, we are.
So,
we are,
but if we pass through this dust, then the dust would be on us as well.
Right. And it wouldn't, again, it's not like the uniform nature of this stuff is what's really weird.
Okay.
First of all, I have to say, I admit I wasn't listening to the last little bit.
God damn it, Samuel.
But everything is expanding at the same rate. So, like, whatever propelled it to overtake.
Okay, I'm going to pause for a second. Very early on in my relationship with Sam, he was living in a town about 2.5, 3 hours from here.
Oh, God, it seems like paradise.
It actually was near a place called Paradise Valley, actually. We got in a fight one night.
2.5 hours.
On the phone. You are an asshole. We got in a fight on the phone one night about the word entropy. Entropy. And I told Sam that entropy, while used in English literature and reference, is scientific in origin. He argued with me that its origins extend as far back with literature as they do with science. And we got in this huge fight, and literally...
This is ridiculous.
How long have we been together now, Sam? Like 15 years? Married for 11?
700.
Okay.
7 billion. How old is Earth?
It's the closest we've ever come to completely ending our relationship.
Wow.
Like, there was such fury.
That you know of.
Oh. There was such fury over the word entropy and the fact that he would not admit that I was right. Like, I was so clearly right. It is a scientific term, and he just kept arguing, and he hung up, and he called me stupid.
Yeah, all those things are accurate, but all those things that I said were accurate. It seems like there should be a better word for it for math, and it's the perfect word to describe what it describes in language, because math is dumb and words are best.
When Sam talks about everything...
Man, you should really be on the street with a sign.
With everything expanding at the same time.
Jeez,
that's
man.
what Sam is referencing.
That is not what I'm referencing.
Well, yeah, because everything...
Entropy is like systemic decay, increasing decay.
And everything, by expanding at the same rate, is working towards an eventuality of decay.
This is... it's... At this point...
Do we need to fight again? Well, we can fight.
We don't need to.
I feel like, ironically... I am the smart one than you, but I have no other words.
Let's please catch back up. We gotta get back to where we were.
I gotta drink more wine. Hold on.
Hey folks, it's me, Byron, and I've got some explaining to do. I've been advised by our lawyer that even though I personally believe this, and I really do, I can no longer legally say that Spring Hill Jack coffee is the only known cure for COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. However, I can say that drinking a brew made from their masterfully roasted beans can't hurt. Why don't you stockpile Spring Hill Jack coffee while you still can? Go to springhilljack.coffee or search Spring Hill Jack coffee on Amazon. That's SPRINGHEELD Jack.coffee. You can thank me later. I legally can't say it will save your life.
This chemical composition of the dust, the fact that it's very different from the rocks.
It's weird.
It's not just different from the rocks, but it has some really weird properties. So this dust, according to many reports, has an incredibly corrosive impact on the astronauts' boots. It has a sandpaper-like effect on their visors. This dust is a very strange...
Those are government low-bid visors.
I mean... Probably.
Your nose deeply, and it's going to blow the mirror off the outside of it.
The other thing that's very strange is as we have started to sort through the moon rocks, and I'm going to talk about even more strangeness related to that, refractory compounds like titanium are present in such large quantities. Geologists have actually said something, they haven't said someone, they've said something would have had to bring them to the moon in large quantities. It doesn't make sense for them to arrive there just by way of like meteorites or asteroids because it's such an insane composition and, in fact, a composition that's so dramatically different from what we find on Earth in terms of these titanium compounds.
Okay, so I got to roll this. I don't know how much you talked about this before, that nutty thing you made me watch with the space submarines.
Sam, this is not the Nazis on the moon episode.
No, I'm just saying, what if the Nazis...
No, that's a different episode.
Okay, it's fine.
We are doing a whole episode on Nazis on the moon. You cannot talk about that right now. So let's talk about the titanium a little more, Sam, since you understand this a bit more than I do. The abundance of titanium is incredibly anomalous.
As compared to...
the Earth.
Yes.
Some lunar samples have contained as much as 10% titanium. The highest abundance that we have found in Earth is 1%. Other precious metals are also found on the moon in a very odd abundance. Mica and brass, and in fact, 2 radioactive elements, one of them being uranium-236 and another one being neptunium. They have never been found.
Wait a minute.
Yes, it's an element. Just shut up.
Neptunium on the moon?
Oh my God! Stop it!
Oh my God, that's uranium. Uranium, named after Uranus, I bet, and it's on the moon too.
It's Uranus, and needs to take us seriously. Do not fuck this interview up for me, you asshole.
Okay.
So
did you just choke him?
So uranium-236 and neptunium, they have never been found naturally on Earth. So the fact that they have been found on the moon indicates something weird. I mean, you could jump to the conclusion that they didn't occur naturally on the moon either, right? All right, so here's another thing. Moon rocks brought back from the Apollo missions, magnetized.
Now, what does that mean?
Well, so this was weird because previously the scientists did not believe that the moon had a magnetic field at any point in its history. It is believed that our magnetism is a result of our rotating, convecting, electrically conducting liquid iron in the core.
None of that is responsible for my magnetism.
You're just on a fucking roll. Okay. The moon, if you want to listen to more about how the moon doesn't have an iron core, listen to our Hollow Moon episode, but the moon wasn't believed to have a core large enough to generate that type of magnetism. It's very strange that these magnetic rocks arrived back and they're going kind of, where the hell did these come from? What created this magnetism? So there were some studies that were done. There was a mission, it was the Grail mission, I believe, the Grail project, where they were trying to measure and figure out the magnetic issues on the moon. We will talk a little bit more about that later in Moon June, but suffice it to say that there are some very weird compositions that, though we have almost identical isotopic compositions, some of the precious metals that are found there do not make any sense, because if they were from asteroids or asteroid belts, for example, that are coming through the area, they'd hit us too. Like if they were getting asteroid belt hits with titanium-rich substances, they would be on the Earth as well. Like we're real close next door neighbors there. In the scope of space, we're basically pretty much
touching
on top of each other. Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense that we wouldn't have those same things. I am not saying that that means it was aliens. Okay. There are explanations, but one of the interesting conclusions that some researchers will come to.
Are you talking about citizen researchers or professional scientific researchers?
Well,
yeah, researchers, Byron. Mean on this show, researchers.
There have been some scientific and professional researchers that have at least pondered this. I don't know any that have said, yes, this is the absolute truth, because none of us know. But there have been some that have seriously pondered this. In fact, I think Carl Sagan even pondered this idea that there could be something fishy about the moon. Even if the moon isn't hollow, even if it's not artificial, there is the thought that it could have been intentionally placed in our orbit. Now, this does clear up the incredibly high odds against the orbit that the moon is in around us and the exact relationship between us and the moon. If it was placed there intentionally, that clearly would account for that statistic improbability. And there are a couple other things that might indicate that as well. So we all know that there's a near side of the moon and a dark side of the moon, correct?
Mm-hmm. Pink Floyd says so.
Pink Floyd does say so.
I wonder if you ever did see anyone there.
Oh my God. Really, really, really different sides. Because the moon doesn't rotate, All right. One of them we literally never see. So it's not like the dark side of the moon is changing and it's just, depends on what angle we're at. No, there is a side of the moon that is always in the dark. And that side of the moon has a completely different composition. There are some interesting theories about even a almost glass-like covering on the near side of the moon that could have been created by it rushing through space at incredible speeds if it was being moved here to be placed in our orbit. Okay? Because that glass-like surface is not on the back side of the moon. So if it was being rushed through space, the front side would be the one that, caught all that friction.
Sure.
Created some gas covering. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say
But the dark side is the one that's taking the brunt of all the solar radiation, though.
Is it?
Well, maybe not, though. Because when it's coming around the other way, I don't fucking know how the moon
I need
works.
a model of all that. The moon is I forget. The moon is on the other side of the sun,
of course,
from us in the autumn.
Well, and there's weird shit about it beyond that. So we've got the weird rock composition. The mean density of the moon is 3.34 times an equal volume of water, whereas the Earth is 5.5 times an equal volume of water. So why the hell is it so much less dense? Well, I'll tell you why. Because there are, at the very least, some giant cavities in the moon, and possibly it is hollow. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it was an artificially created thing.
All right, so now we're into Hollow Moon, which we did do in episode 70 of this podcast. The Phoenix
did. Go back and listen to it.
Hollow Moon.
My theory is that we're all just Christmas ornaments on one big stupid tree.
The other thing very strange about the composition of the moon in relation to what's going on its surface, there are moonquakes, you guys. There are moonquakes up to 5.5 on the Richter scale, all right?
The Andy Richter scale of comedy, right?
Oh, my God. So on Earth, as you guys know, we've had a couple earthquakes in our neck of the woods. They're super quick, right? It's a big deal if they last 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. So on the moon...
Quit doing a Grover noise. What is that?
It's definitely one of the Muppets.
What the hell is that?
I like the Muppets. Maybe it's Miss Piggy.
All right. Hermit? Jesus.
So Apollo 12, when it landed, it created a moonquake. Apollo 13 did the same thing. The reverberation lasted for 3 hours and 20 minutes, and it rang. You know those Tibetan singing bowls that when you you bang them on the side and it rings for a really frickin' long time because it's hollow?
Well, and if you want to learn about the Apollo moon landings, we talked about that in episode 69.
Hot dog, we sure did, because it happened in 1969. I didn't realize that we were so on point with that.
Well, it was. We covered more than one Apollo moon landing, though, right?
Right, but the first one, in theory, happened in 1969.
Very
right,
nice.
So the reverberations lasted 3 hours and 20 minutes, and even the earthquakes, they don't necessarily last that long, but they're 10 minutes. There's no such thing as I'm sure there has. Actually, I don't know. What's the longest earthquake that's happened on Earth? Cabin fellas, I need you to do some research.
600 miles.
No.
Okay, that's
Time.
a length. It looks like May 19th, 2005. There was a Sumatran earthquake that lasted between 500 and 600 seconds, which is about 10 minutes.
And that was...
How many kilometers?
That was obviously quite anomalous, all right? They measured tons of moonquakes. It's fun that they call them moonquakes instead of earthquakes. You get it? It's kind of cool. They measured a ton of them because they put seismographs on the moon in these Apollo missions, and they actually monitored them for some reason until they turned them off in 1977. I don't exactly know why they turned them off, but measured tons of moonquakes, and they lasted average of 10 minutes, which is very strange. Even Buzz Aldrin, or was it Neil Armstrong? One of them said that the moon rang like a bell. So again, picture
maybe that
Tibetan
was
singing
metaphor.
bowls. God, stop it, you guys. It was not a metaphor for what? That's so stupid. A metaphor for what?
If I was as smart as an astronaut, I would be also on the moon. So
Right.
I don't know what it was.
Astronauts are smart, which is why Buzz Aldrin and 3 other astronauts have talked about seeing UFOs.
They're all also broken shells of humans.
Well, you just can't have both sides of that fence, Sam. I'm sorry.
It comes from peeing in little bags and then getting it all over your hands all the time when you're in space.
It doesn't
That's a conspiracy
actually come
theory,
from that.
Sam.
Yep, it is. So Moonquakes in and of themselves, there are 4 different kinds. The first 3 are deep moonquakes, meteor impact moonquakes, and thermal caused moonquakes that are obviously caused by the sun's heat. But the 4th one, these are the really weird ones, and those are the ones that are shallow moonquakes and that last a super long time. We have no clue what causes them. There are actually some thoughts that it might be caused by the tides, which is this interesting reciprocity because the tides are caused by the moon, but then the tides themselves may cause these moonquakes, but we have no idea. Again, this is the closest body to us in our solar system, and yet we know so little about it. There's so many mysteries. And we're supposed to go back really soon. Boots on the moon by 2024. Isn't that the plan?
That's what they're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Space Force and all.
I mean, it's only 238,900 miles away. It's not that far.
There are like 80% of Toyotas on the road today have more miles than that on them. It's no big deal. Just throw all your shit in a Corolla and drive to the moon.
I mean,
okay. We're going to close our first episode of Moon June with a little bit of information that came out pretty recently. We don't have the conclusions from it yet, but this situation in and of itself is something that very well could change the way all of us think about the moon. And it's fun because as we start to dig a little bit more into our outer space exploration than we have for past decades, I'm hoping we get more information like this. But last year, it was discovered there was an enormous, like a huge mass found under the largest crater in the moon. So I'm going to read you a clip from the article on astronomy.com. Buried under the largest, oldest crater on the moon, scientists have discovered an enormous mass of dense material, possibly the remains of an asteroid that formed the crater some 4 billion years ago. Again, the moon is old as hell. Astronomers led by Peter B. James from Baylor University discovered the hidden feature by combining data from NASA's Grail Lunar Orbiter mission and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter to look at where regions of high gravity, and therefore mass, overlap with surface features like craters. They found a giant mass weighing down the floor of the South Pole Aitken Basin more than half a mile. So this mass was so extreme that it was literally pulling the crater down half a mile. Imagine taking a pile of metal 5 times larger than the big island of Hawaii and burying it underground. That's roughly how much unexpected mass we detected. Now, I am not an astronomer. I do think it's weird that there's been very little follow-up information about this. I also find it very, very strange that they're talking about it like a metal mass, and yet they're saying, well, maybe it's an asteroid. Anybody who watched those Skinwalker episodes, remember the giant metal mass that's underneath the ground on Skinwalker? It's not an asteroid, folks. It's not an asteroid.
Asteroids are all metal. They're not all metal. They're no absolutes, but
right.
They're metal.
They do have metal composition in many cases. There are metal components of it. But in this case, this is giant.
Yeah, it could quite possibly reveal something about the origin of the moon or the origin of Earth.
And if this thing hit the moon that long ago, it should have knocked it out of orbit. If it was that giant, there's no way the moon could sustain that type of an impact without being thrown off
if it was
course.
that long ago, it could have destabilized it. And eventually, because the Earth is the only sizable body anywhere close, it drew it back into a stable orbit.
Exactly. It was a moon for another planet, and someone did one of those croquet bumps and knocked it over to us.
Yeah. See, I was going to go with like some
Croquet
analogy
bumps.
to going back to your ex, but
I recently watched Heathers, remember?
Oh, yeah, I need to watch that. Okay,
Yeah.
You guys, I think that that's super strange, and I'm really hoping, I'm going to keep digging, obviously. I'm hoping that somebody can give me some kind of information about the updated status of this giant, unknown metal object underneath a huge section of the biggest crater on the moon.
what's the crater?
Von Karman crater.
So, what's our affiliate in Von Karman crater? If anyone can go check out that mass for us,
please. Yeah,
call in.
You guys,
Report back.
whatever hit had to be 100 miles across.
Wow.
100 miles across. This is crazy. Now, the Apollo missions, as we discussed in those episodes, a lot of the footage has been inexplicably lost, which is just freaking crazy. Like the greatest achievement of mankind.
NASA.
And they just lost.
Never a straight answer.
God, no joke. Okay. The other thing that's been lost is a huge portion of the moon rocks.
Well, everyone just stole those. That's easy.
Tons and tons, more than that, Sam. I mean, so many of them are unaccounted for. And the ones that are accounted for, I found this to be almost as strange, maybe even more strange.
They're not the moon rocks, right?
After 50 years, NASA decided to release 3 samples of moon rocks for analysis to scientists. Literally, they've kept them supposedly contained in this super hygienic facility where they won't decompose and
Well, the
decay.
nerds have something that everybody else wants now, and they're just lording it over us.
I mean, okay, maybe that's the case, but I don't think that it's quite as simple as that.
We were actually very generous with the moon rocks that we brought back. There was 270 that were given to different nations of the world as
diplomats,
gifts.
and it's just garbage.
But
give them fucking pens or something.
So there was 370 gathered, and 160 are missing.
Which is absurd.
184 lost, stolen, or unaccounted for.
Which is very, very, very strange. But there are new analyses that are literally happening right now because NASA's finally decided to supposedly let some of these rocks be analyzed. And it's interesting because they haven't necessarily had the resources to do the really in-depth scientific analysis. As I brought up, this whole thing about the crater came to light long after the Grail mission happened, and it's because the data was being analyzed by another group of scientists who had more resources to analyze the data. And you know, this is one of those things where NASA really needs to release the information to other scientific organizations in order to actually make use of what they've gathered, because there aren't enough funds within NASA itself to do the analysis required. One of the things we've discovered is that there are, I would say, very clear signs that there has been water on the moon in significant quantities. That's one thing that has come from the analysis of these rocks.
They needed to pipe up the water to mix the concrete to put in the supercharger stations for Elon's Tesla that he fired up there.
Oh my God, I hate freaking Elon.
Yeah.
He is such an asshole. I was trying to explain to Byron today that I feel like there's this slightly similar vibe between Elon and Blum. Like this slightly condescending.
No.
You're stupid.
No.
I'm making money off how stupid
I do kind of
you
think that Blum is the Elon of horror.
Yeah. But he's not like, you know how in the 80s there was like a kind of a spate of almost James Bond action movies? Like,
sure.
He's like the villain from one of those movies.
So, guys, this is crazy because those rocks had clear indicators of presence of water on the moon, and yet it was only 10 years ago that we discovered that there was water on the moon, both in the surface and inside minerals. And that's more evidence that, like, okay, we need to be studying these things in greater quantities. So NASA let some samples out. You've let enough be stolen. You may as well give some to some reputable scientists to dig in. I think that there is a lot to learn. I'm not saying that it was placed into our orbit, but I'm not saying that we should rule that out as a possibility, because honestly, it's like all of these other things, you know, the statistic improbability of it falling into the orbit it has fallen into, of it having the relationship with the Earth that it has, of it having the composition both in surface and in isotopes that it has. All of these things are so astronomically improbable, it honestly might be more probable that it was put into orbit by something. I'm just saying, I can't call it a hypothesis because there's no way to test it.
Can't test
it.
But
I'm going to say that it is something that should be considered because we still don't have a clear answer.
Well, I consider that a great report, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Moon June.
All right, it's going to be a lot of fun. I've locked in my contribution. I'm in the midst of writing.
Yeah,
it.
can you tell me who that's going to be?
Absolutely not. You won't know until I start talking about it.
Hold on. Can you make sure that they didn't kill kids, please?
I actually guarantee you that they have not killed kids this time. That's pretty good,
Oh my God,
right?
thank you so much, Byron.
You're very welcome, and thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome.
Very much looking forward to the rest of Moon June.
I'm so glad you are, because I am too. Sam, are you?
Nope.
All right, and that's not surprising. Surprising, however, the film we watched this week. Surprisingly fun, surprisingly charming, and unsurprisingly, we're going to talk about Extraordinary in a few seconds.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Byron, I really appreciate you letting us watch a fun movie this week.
Well, I thought you needed it. Plus, I have suggested this 4 times, and you have repeatedly been like, I don't know.
I mean, it must...
That is an uncanny impression.
Okay, so those must have been situations where I just was like, I don't really know.
It's South Park, Kelly.
Yeah, you guys, I don't know. Extraordinary is a 2019 Irish supernatural horror comedy film written and directed by Mike Ahern and Enda Loughman. Sam, could you share a little bit about this film?
Rose, a sweet small-town driving instructor, is gifted with supernatural abilities, the talents, which means she can talk to the spirit world. Rose has a love-hate relationship with her abilities after seeing what they did to her dad, Vincent, and she tries to ignore the constant small-time spiritual requests from the locals. Haunted rubbish bins, tractors, children's bikes, frying pans, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when her help is requested by Sarah, a teenager whose father, Martin, is being haunted by his deceased, nagging wife, she is very tempted. Martin seems like a very nice man. Meanwhile, in a large castle outside town, Christian Winter, a washed-up rock star, has a sinister plan to sell his soul for renewed success.
Feature debut for Mike and Enda. Interesting how it all came together. It was an idea that they had been pitching for a while. They became interested in it by thinking about how funny tiny hauntings are. Small hauntings, not like the demons, the houses, bleeding walls,
like
that
a tree
kind of
branch.
Stuff.
Like one tree branch.
The tiny
little
stuff,
like the wife that picks out the clothes for her husband in the morning and gets pissed when he doesn't wear them.
Sure. And they shared this idea with their friend, a woman named Maeve Higgins, who does play the lead here, Rose Dooley. Maeve Higgins, I didn't know this. It was a very huge surprise to Jamie when her and I saw this. It was the closing film at Telluride Horror Show this last year. Apparently, Jamie knows Maeve Higgins from her weekly comedy shows in New York.
What?
Yeah, she hosts a show called Butter Boy with Aparna Nancherla and Joe Firestone. What? Yeah, I mean, I don't think she knows her personally, but she went and saw the comedy show that they hosted almost every week for quite some time in New York.
She is fucking hilarious.
She's so really funny. Good. Perfect casting for this character. But yeah, other than that, I don't know much other than that this was shot in Ireland. I know that Will Forte came to the project late. It was something like 3 weeks before shooting. He read the script, thought it was hilarious, and was already going to Ireland for vacation anyway. So
might as well make another movie.
Decided to do it. He's like the funniest guy ever. What's the name of this gentleman he plays?
Christian Winter.
Just an amazing character.
Coming, my sweet. I'm doing an incantation.
He's a really good character.
Completely
That
over
hair.
the top. Oh, it's
very well realized.
Beautiful.
Like, as a backstory, fully fleshed.
Well, yeah, and it's actually really interesting. It's based in a little bit of truth. Apparently, in the 80s, there was a handful of musicians who made it big, who relocated to Ireland to avoid paying taxes on the money that they made. Very interesting. I don't have any specific examples, but apparently that's something that happened in Ireland. And I guess
honestly would have moved there because the people are kind, delightful, warm, and welcoming.
Uh-huh.
And then also, if I didn't have to pay taxes, that would make me move there.
You're closer to Loch Ness. It's a good place to be.
Great place to be.
I need to get out of Globe for you.
You are way closer to Loch Ness.
Then here, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I said. Don't be a dick. I know it's in a different place.
Vincent Dooley's The Talents, a pretty amazing series.
Why don't we see ghosts every day? The truth is, ghosts are around us all the time. But most hauntings are so small, they go unnoticed. For example, a pen lid, a gravel, a trapped sound, a child's ball or balls, a wheeled bin.
Hello, I'm Vincent Dooley. Welcome to the next in my series exploring the rare and wonderful supernatural gifts known as the talents.
Produced by our lead character, Rose Dooley's father. It's kind of how we get introduced to the supernatural elements of this in a VHS series about the paranormal, which I thought was a really interesting wraparound.
Yeah, and I had such a warm, fuzzy flashback to I think we've talked about this like way back in the past, but the Time Life collections that they used to shill on TV, like the Mysteries of the Unknown.
You have to call
Why
a
are the
number, place
pyramids
an order.
pointy? Could you stab someone with them? These answers are waiting for you in Time Life Books, Mystery of the Unknown. I love those commercials. And this was just like that. And also in a very honest way, like WNUF does, I think.
I mean, he brings up some really great points. Stuff like ghosts can easily possess cheese.
Later in this episode, do you ever have nightmares after eating cheese? You might have eaten a ghost. Even the weakest ghosts can possess cheese quite easily, due to the living bacteria in the cheese.
Great fact. I didn't know anything about that, and Kelly's never shared stuff like that. Maybe if you talked more about cheese bacteria possessions, I would be more interested in, I guess.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'll look into it.
I also really got a kick out of that because, like, for me, if you're suspending this much logic already that there are, like, ghosts, there is nothing that is too silly to happen.
It's a cool playground. I think that the whole world that the director has built here is really, really interesting and really, really fun. I read in an interview, they're like, what films did you reference when you came to this project? And they're like, mentioned 0 horror films, which is...
Yeah, like Notting Hill. I'm just guessing.
They said Mrs. Doubtfire was a huge one in this, which...
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
See that.
I guess. But I thought that was really interesting for 2 non-horror people to come to something like this. It's not really a horror film, but it definitely has some pretty incredible horror elements, and I think it would play for any sort of horror audience, obviously. I saw it at Telluride Horror Show, and it was a smash hit, a wild success. Everyone was having a great time. So,
well, that doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't have to... I think that's one thing that horror falls into. Like, hey, it's this like super exclusive club, and you can only do horror if you understand everything about Grindhouse and about weird foreign language nonsense stuff, and you got to pay your dues. And then you end up with someone like, John Krasinski, who's like, I'm Jack Ryan on Amazon's Jack Ryan.
You stop being
I'm going to
mean
make a movie about quiet monsters or something, I guess.
He's fine.
And
Stop
then
it.
It's like, yeah, whatever. But then you have these people who just are so obviously pouring like their heart and very, very sincere, genuine feelings into this movie, and like kind of imbuing it with these qualities that make these characters so lovable. And it's a farce, but also there's something about all of these people where you're just like, oh, I kind of want to give you a hug. Even you, Christian Winter.
I don't want to give him a hug. His hair is very scary.
I like his mustache, though. Will Forte can pull off pretty much any sort of style of hair or facial hair. It's pretty...
Or none.
Or none. I mean, I loved him in The Last Man on Earth. I thought that was an incredible series. Unfortunately, I didn't watch the last season, and then it got canceled. I wonder why.
Ooh.
Rose, she runs a driving school. She obviously used to investigate the paranormal more because her answering machine... If you're calling about driving lessons, leave me a message. If you're calling about the other thing, I haven't done that in years. It's a quick way to establish who Rose is or who she was. It's a very interesting, smart character development. I think very quickly we understand Rose and her past.
Something about Rose is, like, Maeve Higgins is... I wish that woman was in my life in some capacity. She's amazing.
She is really great.
But I think she's going to blow up.
Oh, she has to. Her and it seems like her father's pursuit of the paranormal was done for the benefit of people. It wasn't kind of the predatory paranormal stuff that we see a lot of. Well, like just like Zach Baggins, like where it's
Baggins or the Warrens.
Or the Warrens, yeah. Where the goal is to get on talk shows and things like that. Like she wants to help people with her talent. And she leads a very modest, lonely life. She's just a good person.
Yeah, but she's reluctant to share her talent because of the
incident.
The dad slaughter.
I'm really sorry for slaughtering you, Daddy.
That situation didn't work out very well.
It was, God, it's so mean that it's funny, but it's really funny.
It's pretty funny. She has almost retired, that is until a man named Martin calls. Him and his wife aren't getting along, partially because she's controlling, also because she is deceased. He calls her because, did he call because of the possession of his daughter?
No, it was because his daughter just said it's her or it's me. You got to get rid of her.
Yeah.
She's been dead too long.
Mm-hmm. A major theme throughout this film is moving on, moving forward, getting past.
Yeah.
Rose and Martin are both, they're stuck. Something is holding them back. Their past is holding them back.
I think that's very, very accurate. Well put, Byron.
Thanks. But Martin, does he trick her? He does
trick her.
Okay.
He tells her that he just needs some driving lessons.
Yeah, just like a lot of people do, and I think she should be used to that by now. During that driving instructing period, I think there's some interesting development in what she sees as well. The whole do ghosts have feelings playing behind it, the video of her father recorded where he's explained that ghosts get lonely and they do what they can to get attention. They're stuck people, lonely people. And as she's driving, she's seeing all these sheet ghosts appear, or like small things like branches waving at her. I thought it was really cool. It was, I guess, a look at ghosts that you don't often see.
Quick insert. I found an article from the New York Times in 1971. 2 years after Ireland became the first country to exempt artists from income taxes, a total of 262 writers, painters, and musicians have found a haven with uncertain blessings. So there you go.
Wow.
That's what happened.
That is...
Apparently they ended that in 2016, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding U2 at that point and their tax evasion. There you go.
Well, it's all that you can't leave behind, I guess.
Rose and Martin
have Sam, that was so bad.
Yeah.
Rose and
What is your phone doing? Your phone is fucking
possessed.
It
is called a boot loop, and you be quiet and do the podcast.
It is seriously possessed. It has been
is.
flashing on and off. I'm going to order you a new phone. Sweet baby Jesus.
Rose and Martin are adorable, and then we're quickly introduced to Will Forte's character, Christian Winter, who is just out of his fucking mind. An interesting partner as well, played by Claudia O'Doherty. She plays Claudia Winter.
She sucks.
She does suck, but she was so sweet as Birdie in Netflix's series Love. She plays this like very soft-spoken, very kind young woman. She's not that in this, and I kind of love her for that. I mean, she's upset that Christian has failed ever since the release of his first single, Cosmic Woman.
Few songs in rock history had such instant success. Christian shot from anonymity to mega stardom, practically overnight. But that was it. A one-hit wonder. Christian's success was short-lived. None of his subsequent records even made it to the charts.
Yes, everyone does call him One Hit Winter and laughs at him, etc. But this new album is going to really turn things around, and in a couple of weeks, we won't have to live in this shit.
This is my comeback. They say the devil is in the details. And with this album, all the details are just right.
Oh, God.
He struggles. He's a terrible songwriter. He flops at everything, and he's decided to sell his soul to the devil. All he has to do is sacrifice a virgin. They fuck that up very quickly by waking up a levitating virgin, and when that happens, virgins explode.
Yeah, in a really
I think, as we all know,
violent manner.
Yes, it was. And now they have to replace the virgin that they exploded before the blood moon is over, and that person just so happens to be Martin's daughter. We don't need to walk through this too terribly much. I think much else do you want to talk about?
No, it's good. It's just funny. It's like it's a typical quest to stop the big bad from doing the big bad thing at the end.
God, I want to talk about the very last scene so badly. Well, the funniest fucking thing ever.
It's pretty incredible, and I mean that's a good sale for the end of this thing. I do like the CG of Azeroth is pretty great. I'll just say that it passed my test. So
Yes. I was so sold on this. I was sold on Azeroth.
What are your final thoughts on this thing?
I gotta go first. I gotta go first.
Okay.
Byron recommends a lot of movies to me. And, I've been going through this weird experience with him recently where I'm agreeing with him on a bunch of things. As I told him earlier today, I rather feel that this is a reverse Mercury retrograde, pre-Mercury retrograde effect. But I was a bit skeptical when he recommended this one. He says he's recommended it like 3 times before. I remember none of that. So it must have been just things that I blocked out. But put it on, watched it with Sam. It was a really fun movie experience, especially because we were coming off the end of the first season of Outlander, which was real rough to get through and brutal and awful. And this was just a really fun feel good, exactly what I needed. I also think the story was interesting and the acting was fun, and I would love to see as many movies as possible with this core group of artists, because it was maybe the most fun. I think it's the most fun horror experience I've had since Ready or Not. I think I would say that pretty easily. I give Extraordinary 7.4 magically appearing ghost cigarettes.
I loved Extraordinary. It was so much fun. It was just nice. Like, even the crazy washed up musician who's going to sacrifice a virgin to the dark gods for his career just wasn't that bad a guy. Everybody was, just good people getting along in a little village. I liked them all. It was really funny, and it was ridiculous. I don't know. It didn't take itself seriously, and I think that can be the most honest thing of all, is when we can laugh at ourselves, and I that really resonated with me right now. I loved it. Oh, Maeve Higgins, amazing. Like, just amazing. And that was another thing that I liked, is all these people they're normal people. Like, the love interests, they're just normal people. They look like normal people. They have normal bodies. They talk like normal people. I mean, except much funnier. And I liked that. I liked that a lot. So I would give Extraordinary. I'm going to give it 7.5 mouthfuls of ectoplasm.
Yeah, this movie is dang funny. It's sharply written. Maeve is a hoot. And, of course, Will Forte, amazing. Great mustache. I love Claudia. She's obnoxious. Again, it's a side of her I've never seen. She's usually so sweet. So I appreciate this performance so much. The film looks good. It's beautifully colored and it's amazingly shot. Everything looks great. The tapes are a lot of fun. It's got copious amounts of ectoplasm puke. Casual Satanism is always fun. Overall, it's a blast. It's accessible horror for genre fans and normies alike. And it's kind of a sweet movie, too. It would work as a date flick.
I totally agree.
For those reasons, I give Extraordinary 7.9 Christian winter songs. And those are our thoughts on Extraordinary, which is available now on VOD. I imagine it's got a physical release as well. I don't know what regions it is. But
I hope they put it out on vinyl.
That would be a lot of fun.
You guys, I really try to get excited about this notion of physical releases. I just don't give a shit anymore.
Well, you and everyone else, unfortunately. I
know I should.
I want to know what you think about this film. If you've seen it, if you haven't, check it out. Once you have, reach out to us at Frightday on Twitter and Instagram. Leave a comment below this episode in the show notes at frightday.com. Send us an email, contact@frightday.com, or let's have a talk about this in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/frightday. Amazing community, some of the best people gathering there. So check it out.
We don't even have to tell you guys to take care of each other.
Yeah. You guys do, because you're amazing humans.
Facebook.com/group/frightday. And we're about to stop. We're not going to do this anymore for tonight. But our voices keep going when you subscribe to Frightday Screamium at patreon.com/Frightday. And when you do that, you get access to all kinds of stuff. Bonus episodes of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, Byron's Serial Corner, The Writer's Room, Toast to Toast PM with Wine Kelly. The Writer's Room, that's a fun program. I have nothing to do with that. Sometimes I pop in. I guess what you would call an...
just like the women's bathroom at Target, right?
Oh,
right.
Stop it.
I was going to claim for the first time ever executive producer on a show, and that's fun.
Oh, I love that. Look at you.
Guy.
You're so fancy.
All right. So check that.
I'm so fancy.
That's not how she sings it. So much there when you support us at patreon.com/Frightday. You also get those warm, fuzzy feelings knowing that this is helping us step closer and closer to being a real career, our job. And yeah, even if you support us just $1 a month, it quickly could become something that we're able to spend more time on, which means better and more for you. Most helpful of all, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to this. And I guess even more important than that would be to just tell someone you think would like our show about our show.
Hey, and you guys know this, but love and kindness win every fucking time.
That's so true. Sam, good job.
I love Sam. I needed you this week, so thanks.
Likewise, buddy.
Yeah.
Kelly, where are you going to be until next week?
I'm going to be researching ways to teach my kids about race relations.
Oh, great.
You can find me at Kelly Frightday on Twitter. You can email me, kelly@frightday.com. And you can maybe find me on Instagram, Captain Kelly Jennifer.
I am at Sam Frightday on Twitter. Email me, sam@frightday.com.
And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram. Byron@frightday.com is my email address. And until next Frightday, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm still Sam.
You've been listening to an Audio Wall original, produced by Byron McKoy, theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowall.co.